it comes in the news. Similarly, in cybersecurity, if some attack happens, it also comes to the news. Okay, so they check with the threat intel feeds and update themselves for the latest vulnerabilities and attacks. Then they also find the weakness and alerts in the network before it is attacked. Okay. Now, once they search for the vulnerability, they send this report to the network administrator or the management so that they can further take the call to resolve the vulnerability or not. If they say we have to resolve it, they will send the its administrator will fix the updates. Okay, they will have somehow secure the vulnerability. So ethical hackers needs to keep up with most of the recently discovered vulnerabilities and exploits in order to stay one step ahead of the attackers through vulnerability research, which includes, let's say, discovering system design faults and weakness that might allow attackers to compromise the system, then being informed about new products and new technology in order to find news related to current exploits, checking underground hacking websites for new vulnerabilities and exploits, especially in dark web, and checking new release alerts regarding relevant innovations and product improvement for security systems and updates. Okay, this is how you can update yourself and search for the vulnerabilities, right? Well, when I say the classification, you can see these are vulnerability classifications where the misconfiguration, it starts with, we can see misconfiguration, default installation. These are some issues which cause vulnerability. Guys, note down these things. Okay, guys, understood?
Yes, sir.
So starting with misconfiguration. What is misconfiguration? So misconfiguration is the most easy common vulnerability that is mainly caused by human error, right? For an example, if I give you something to configure which actually don't even have the knowledge, you have never done this that things earlier. So what you will do is you will go to Google, you will search about that thing, and then you will go to YouTube and how to do that thing, and you will configure accordingly. But that is how to configure, but not how to securely configure or how to properly configure. You don't know about that, right? So a system can be misconfigured in so many ways. Number one, an application running with the debug enabled. Number two, outdated software running on the system. Number three, running unnecessary services on the machine. Number four, using misconfigured SSL certificates and default certificates. Number five, improperly authenticated external systems. And number six, disabling security systems and features. These are the most six, you can say, ways by which vulnerability can be caused with that in misconfiguration. So attackers can easily detect this misconfiguration using some tools and tricks and then exploit them to get the access to the systems. So it is important for an administrators or security hunters to change default configurations to change the default configuration of devices and optimize the security of the devices. Okay. Number two is, let's say, default installation. So default installations are usually kept user friendly, especially when the device is being used for the first time, as the primarily concern in usability of device rather than the device security, right? So in some cases, infected devices may not contain any valuable information, but they are connected to networks or systems that have confidential information that would result in data breach. Not changing the default settings while deploying the software or hardware allows the attacker to guess the settings in order to break into a system, right? So never proceed with default installation. right? For an example, you have configured FTP. Earlier we have gone through FTP configuration, right? In Linux at the time of Linux, Telnet, SSH, FTP, SFTP. How many of you remember that?
Yes, sir. Remember.
So if you just install and configure up the default way, which I have shown, then definitely it is a big issue. Why? Because you are working on a default port, which is all settings are default, right? So if you are going to use that, it is a big problem. At least make some security settings, make some password security, right? Okay. Number three is buffer overflows. Buffer overflows are are common cause software vulnerability caused by design issues, caused by development. Okay, that happen due to coding errors, if I say directly, allowing attackers to get access to the system. In a buffer overflow attack, attackers undermine the functionality of a program and then try to take the control of the system by writing the content beyond the allocated size of the buffer. You guys are developers, right? You have gone through development earlier? So you might know about the malloc and calloc functions. How many of you know malloc function? Guys? Hello, hello.
No.
No, you have learned C language. Guys, you don't have C language in your syllabus or what? You guys are from B Tech. I guess in any of the engineering, at least C language is there,
Yes, sir.
as per my knowledge. So malloc and calloc are the memory allocation functions, which are which are taught in C language. So you guys have not learned that? Okay, forget it. So you can see it's all connecting the dots. Whatever you have learned is used somewhere. So if you forget what you learned, believe me, it is a big problem for you only. So when you develop, you specify a particular, you can say size of the particular variable, right? For example, a and in brackets you specify 20, right? So variable a will only contain 20, uh, the size of 20 variable only, right? Letters or whatever. So what attacker can do is they can give more than 20 to crash that particular variable and get the access to the system in a very simple words. Okay, so buffer overflow attack is something where attackers undermine the functionality of the program and try to take the control of the system by writing the code beyond the allocated size of the buffer. Okay, insufficient bounds checking in the program is the root cause because the buffer is not able to handle that particular data beyond its limit, causing the flow of data to adjacent memory locations and overwriting their data values. Okay? The systems often crash or become unstable or show erratic program behavior when buffer overflow occurs. Fourth one is unpatched servers. So servers are an essential component of the infrastructure of any organization. There are several cases where the organizations can unpatch or misconfigure servers, compromising the security of the integrity of the data in the system. So hackers look out for these vulnerabilities in the server and exploit them. As these unpatched servers are the hub of the attackers, they serve as an entry point into the system, which can lead to the exposure of the private data, financial loss, discontinuation of operation, even buffer overflow is also one of them. Updating software regularly and maintaining systems properly by patching and fixing bugs can help in mitigating vulnerabilities caused due to unpatched servers. So unpatched servers are something where you have to update your servers in order to fix your vulnerabilities. Number five, design flaw. So design flaw you might have heard about like the GUI of any you can say software or website or how it can be vulnerable. So vulnerabilities that can cause you to design flaw are universal to all the operating system and systems. Design vulnerabilities such as incorrect encryption or poor validation of the data refers to the logical flaw in the functionality of the system that is exploited by the attackers to bypass the detection mechanism and acquire access to the system. Specifically, we go with SQL injection, cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery. These are lots of attacks which can be done in the design flaws. Then we have number six, operating system flaws. So it can also be have like yesterday we have gone to Trojan, right? So due to the vulnerabilities in the operating system, such as Trojan, bomb, virus, and such threats, these attacks are performed by using malicious code, script, or elementary softwares, which result in loss of sensitive information and loss of control on computer. Well, so timely patching of operating system and installing minimum software applications and use of application with firewall capabilities and antiviruses are essential steps that an administrator need to take to protect your operating system from any attack. So always use licensed operating system plus a good antivirus so that you can secure from such things and never disable your security. Now, number seven, application flaw. So application flaws are vulnerabilities in application that are exploited by the attackers, right? An application should be secured using validation and authorization of the user. So you can see lots of the things can be resolved if the proper validation are done, right? In any of these vulnerabilities. So applications pose security threats such as data tampering and unauthorized access to the configuration stores. If the applications are not secured, sensitive information may be lost or corrupted. Hence, it is important for developers to understand the anatomy of common security vulnerabilities and develop highly secure applications by providing proper user validation and authorization. Number eight is open services. Now it is the most common ones. Why? Because we start the services, we use the services, but I have seen in lots of the cases is even though the service is not in use, we don't stop the service. And unfortunately, it will cause if that service is you can say of a liberal service somehow, so it will definitely cause attacks, right? Or when your attacker know that this is installer or vulnerability is there, he can definitely use that vulnerability in order to attack. So open ports and services may lead to loss of data, DOS attacks, and allow attackers to perform further attacks on the connected devices. Administrators need to continuously check for unnecessary or insecure ports and services in order to secure the risk on the organization. Okay. Last but not the least, the default password, which we have already uh, discussed in the system hacking stuff. So manufacturers provide default password to the users to access the device during the initial configuration and setup, so that users can log in and configure, right? And the main part is user need to change the password for future use. However, users forget to update the password and continue with the default password, making devices systems more vulnerable to the various attacks, such as, for example, brute force attack, dictionary attack, which you have already gone through, right? So attackers exploit this vulnerability to obtain access to the system. Password should be kept secret. Failing to protect the confidentiality of the password allows the system to be compromised pretty easily. Even I have shown you a website called default passwords, right? Where you can check out the default password of each of the device in the market. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now what is vulnerability assessment? Important topic. So vulnerability assessment is a kind of mechanism, or you can say examination, of verifying the system or application, or you can say testing the system or application, including the security controls, including the configuration, including the services and ports and everything to withstand assault. Means to check and get where exactly you stand, how many vulnerabilities it has and all. So it is a kind of, you can say, automated way to check for vulnerabilities. Okay. So it recognizes, and measures and classifies security vulnerabilities in a computer system, network, or communication channels. So it is nothing but, you can say, vulnerability assessment is just a particular examination to test for vulnerabilities and make the list of vulnerabilities along with the severity levels. Okay. So a vulnerability assessment may be used to say definitely get the list of vulnerabilities and weakness and exploits, right? And information security professionals, see, there are two types of assessment. Okay, we can do it for searching the vulnerability. Number one, automated way. Number two, manual way. Manual way will definitely take a lot of time depending on how many applications or systems needs to be tested. But automated way is something where it is a software designed to test for vulnerabilities. It has the list of all the vulnerabilities and all the exploits as well. So it will check one by one all the vulnerabilities in your machine by testing that vulnerability whether it exists or not. And also it will use the exploit. If the vulnerability is found, it is also going to use the exploit to test for the vulnerability. But usually these type of vulnerability assessment softwares are giving the false positive results. Now what is false positive? False positive means wrong result, specifying that they say like vulnerability exists, but actually it is not. If you test manually by exploiting it or by testing it or checking it, you will see that this vulnerability actually not exist in your machine. So it is very important to test for vulnerability. It is good to use software like this, right? And a lot of the organizations are using it. Okay, to be frank. When I was in Wipro, I hope you have heard about Wipro. So when I was in Wipro, Wipro uses a software called as Nessus, which I will show you today. So they use Nessus, right? So how to work with such tools? Well, you can use such tools, but whatever the result you get before giving to the management, before giving to the administrator, before giving to the further personnels, what you need to do is you need to cross check that the vulnerabilities in the report are even exist or not. Out of 10, and you will see out of 10, 7 will be yes, but 3 will be false positive, because it says it might be, means software is a software, right? So he will just say check for something and say he don't know like whether this exists or not kind of thing. If he think like it is a vulnerability, it adds, but it doesn't mean it is a vulnerability, right? So you can use such software, but after generating the report, you need to cross verify that to reduce the false positive stuff. So information obtained from such vulnerability scanners include network vulnerabilities, open ports, running services, application and service vulnerabilities, and some misconfiguration or configuration errors as well. Now, when I'm coming to this vulnerability assessment, there are two types of assessment we usually do with network scanners. Okay, guys, am I audible?
Sir.
So
Yes,
there
sir.
are two. So there are two approaches to network vulnerability scanning. Number one, active. Number two, passive. Active passive concept we have gone through earlier. Remember if you know. So active is something here where the attacker interacts directly to the target network to find vulnerabilities. Same concept which I have already gone through and said to you as well. Example, an attacker sends probes and specially crafted requests to the target host in an order to identify vulnerabilities. Now, number two, passive scanning. So here, the attacker tries to find vulnerabilities without directly interacting with the network, right? An attacker identifies vulnerabilities via information exposed by the system in their normal communication. Right? Example, Telnet Practical, I have shown and opened Wireshark to show that the username, password, and such things are flown easily in the network. So before moving on to the vulnerability assessment and using any software, the very important is what are the pros and cons of using this type of the vulnerability applications are required. Any organization will ask you for the pros and cons. I hope you guys know what is pros and what is cons. Guys, what is pros and cons?
It's like advantages or disadvantages.
Yes. So pros mean advantages and cons means disadvantages. So here I'm going to speak some, let's say, 4 or 5 disadvantages if I say, or limitations of vulnerability assessment. So number one, vulnerability scanning software is limited in its ability to detect vulnerabilities at a given point in time. Okay, so there are lots of the thing is, many of the attacks don't work like, let's say, I will test for 5 minutes, and in 5 minutes, if the vulnerability is captured, then it is a vulnerability, or else I say no, it is not a vulnerability. Some of the attacks are time based, right? There are firewalls and such securities out there which are blocking for 5 minutes and then allowing. So if you're using software and just checking for 5 minutes, so it won't detect the vulnerability, right? Number two, vulnerability scaling softwares must be updated when new vulnerabilities are discovered or implemented. Improvements are available to the software being used. So you need to also update the vulnerability assessment software which you are going to use, because if the database needs to be updated with the new latest exploits and vulnerabilities. So you need to search for such software which is updating its database very constantly, immediately. Number three is software is only an effective as the maintenance performed on it by software vendor and administrator who uses it. So this software are only effective when you have constant updates, you have uh, it is updating with the new features, right, kind of things. Number five is it does not measure the strength of the security control. So it is searching for vulnerability, guys. It is not searching for how much load it is going to take, right, or how much defense it is going to check, right. And last, vulnerability scanning software itself is not immune to the software engineering flaws, right? So it is also designed by some other developer, and definitely it can also have vulnerabilities, right? Because it is also designed by some other developer. So how many types of vulnerability assessment is there? Usually it is of two types only, right? But as you can see here, it says there is active and passive. But you can see some more types of vulnerability assessment, specifically external, internal. External is used for outside, means publicly available sources. Means if you have an organization and you might be using, let's say, cloud or something. So whatever is accessible from internet of your internal organization, that is external. For example, a website hosted. So website is accessed by the public, right? So you need to, if you want to perform external assessment, means you are going to perform website assessment, or definitely if you have any public IP addresses, right, which are going to travel inside the network, you can test their IP addresses as well. Internal assessment is a technique to scan internal infra. Now this is something big. Let's say in my organization, if I say currently we have 13,000 users in our infrastructure. Okay, internal network. 13,000, 13,000. And they are telling me we need to perform internal network pen test. Can you tell me, can we do manually this 13,000 machines pen test? Means testing for vulnerability. Guys, your voice is not audible, Sudhindra. So, see if you have good resource. For example, if you have, let's say, 100 penetration testers as well, still you won't be able to do it, right? Because it is a big number, 13,000, right? It is going to take a year at least, right? to perform all the pen tests and all. So it is not possible. So at that time, what you can do is you can not perform manual assessment, but you can go through automated assessment, right? Which is with the help of any software tools, okay? Which will automatically perform scan on all the machines and give you the reports easily. Then we have host-based assessment where we are going to select a particular host and directly perform test. Network assessment, which is to check for network security attacks only, right? For routers, switches, kind of thing. Application assessment, it is used by the, let's say it is a web development company, needs to check for website related attacks, but internally. Then you can use this one. And if your organization have Wi-Fi infra, then you can go for Wi-Fi related attacks as well. So how you can perform this scan? How you can perform this particular you can say vulnerability assessment? Well, first you have to create a plan. It is not something like directly you can move on, right? You can see. First you have to create a plan. Create a baseline means checklist of this particular plan. Once you have all the requisites in your hand, likewise these are the usernames, these are the password, these are the IP list, right? And everything with you. Then you can perform the vulnerability assessment. It will give you all the machines vulnerabilities. So what you can do is you can perform risk assessment. What is risk assessment? Risk assessment is a kind of methodology. It is a phase. All the serious or you can say uncertainties that are associated with the system are assessed, fixed and permanently eliminated for ensuring a flaw-free system. Means all the vulnerabilities are first of all aligned with the severity. Okay, like these are high, these are low, these are critical, these are uh, critical kind of thing. So whatever is on the priority, they will first fix, right? And then again check for the vulnerability whether it is still fixed or not. Okay, and remediation means it is a process of reducing the severity of the vulnerability. Okay, means patching your machines. Later, it should also be verified whether after the patch the machines are fixed or not. Means the vulnerability is fixed or not. Right? Let's say if you found a vulnerability and you update the patch, means patch needs to be fixed the vulnerability. But still, if after installing the patch the vulnerability is not fixed, then it is a problem, right? So you need to verify that it is fixed or not, and then monitor accordingly. Okay, guys, note this life cycle. It is very important.
Yes, sir.